Hi, everybody. Congratulations on finishing week 6 of the Elevate class. This is one of those weeks that most students say was really pleasurable or fun. And it's because the experience of gratitude, of extending appreciation always feels really good, both for the giver and for the receiver. Hopefully this week, even if you're just naturally a very appreciative person, you learned a little bit about what gratitude is on a deeper level. I think in the conversations I've been having, one thing is clear, and we all can get a little better about learning how to be grateful for the moments that are challenging. And I know that this can be frustrating or kind of questioning, because if you're in the middle of a big fight with your partner, it's contrary to sit back and say, gee, let me be grateful for this disagreement. And yet, there's something to learn in every experience. Years ago, when I was first learning about gratitude, when it was really being researched and contributing to the positive psychology movement, I went to a seminar where the speaker just drilled to be grateful for every single experience. And while I've always had a rather positive outlook, and I was kind of in the middle of a big spiritual growth spurt at that time, I found it very easy to consider my life from the perspective of gratitude. But I was challenged to consider being grateful for every single thing. You see, I'd been widowed at the age of 24 and left with as a single mom. And I found it very challenging to think that I needed to be grateful that my husband died. And yet, when I brought this to the speaker's attention, he got very quiet and he said, yes, I can imagine your quandary at this. He said, but can you be grateful for what you learned as a result of having that experience? And of course, I said yes. Because at the end of the day, everything that happens, regardless of what the tragedy is, has an opportunity to teach us, to help us grow, to see ourselves more clearly. And for those things, we most certainly can be grateful. So that argument that you just had with your spouse really maybe offer an opportunity for you to see yourself more clearly, to get a better understanding of their position, to experience the passion of your relationship, because with those lows come highs. And so I want to really encourage you as you go throughout your week to consider all of the space in your life that allows you to be grateful and learn to appreciate the challenges, no matter how difficult they might be. Of course, you're human, so you're going to experience something probably before the appreciation, but if you can eventually get to gratitude, that's the goal. Now, I wanted just to review the 31 benefits of gratitude that was one of the articles that I had you reading this week, because I think this chart is great at depicting how gratitude impacts our life on so many levels. From an emotional standpoint, we know that people who practice gratitude are more relaxed, they're more resilient, they have better memories or more memories of happiness, they tend to be more social, have better marriages, they're kinder, they have deeper relationships, because who doesn't love appreciation? In terms of career, they have stronger goal achievement, better decision-making skills, they're sick less, they have better sleep, they live longer, and they're more optimistic, they have increased self-esteem. All of this is backed by hardcore research that shows us the effects of an active gratitude practice. And so I hope that this week strengthened the practice that you already have, and maybe helped you deepen it to an extent. I know a couple of people have said that they started a gratitude journal, and they're reading through it every morning when they wake up, and it just reminds them of all of the great things that they have to look forward to start their day. So good job on that. And this is one of those things that you can continually do far after the Elevate class. So I don't think there's anything else. If you didn't see the tip and trick that I put on the syllabus for week 6, finding yourself in a disagreement with someone, this is particularly good in romantic relationships. Of course, we're going to spat with our partners. But in the middle of that, or if you're feeling that you just, you're getting all that really negative energy charged, try to stop for a moment and think of 3 things that you really love about this person. 3 things that you're so appreciative of. Even if you don't vocalize them, it kind of takes some of the energy out of that negativity, and you're more likely to step back a little bit from that argument. It's a little bit of a neutralizer and a tip that I use a lot when I do couples counseling, and I'm told over and over again how well that works. So for week 7, we're going to talk about spirituality. And I include spirituality in the Elevate class because from a transcendental perspective, we are mind, body, and spirit. And regardless of what your spiritual orientation is, we know again from the research in positive psychology, people who have some type of spiritual practice actually increase or report increased levels of well-being. So this week I am introducing you to a whole slew of spiritual practices. It's another week where I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg and inviting you to dig a little bit deeper on your own time, any of the things that really interest you. So we're going to take a look at the difference between spirituality and religion. I want to encourage you to challenge your existing belief system. And then we're going to talk about what it is to be spiritual. Now, I offer a little tip and trick here. And, it's that old, Christian adage, what would Jesus do? And whether you have a strong Christian faith or not, we know that the man, Jesus Christ, walked on this planet and he exuded love and compassion. So when I think of what would Jesus do, that's kind of what I think about, is how do I move into this experience with love and compassion? How do I respond to this individual with love and compassion? And I think that when I approach my daily decisions with the idea or with the energy of love and compassion, then I'm always a happier person. And my interactions generally go much better. So remind yourself, what would Jesus do if you're in a quandary? So don't forget, I always have these journal questions. What I really like, what I find very interesting is this chart about world religions. And one of these days, I am going to study religion very intently because I find it really fascinating. We'll give this chart a second to load. But I'm going to introduce you to that. And then we have kind of these different ideas of religion. I tried to get them to step away from traditional Christianity just because most people have some exposure to that. But I'm not in any way attempting to question your beliefs if you have a very strong Christian belief. But I would like you to at least examine some of the other ideas that are out there. There are some really good articles that talk about religion and spirituality and defend both sides of the fence. Gabrielle Bernstein, in this TED or YouTube video, which I believe is I I think it's a Super Soul Sunday video, actually. She talks about her book, The Universe Has Your Back. And Gabrielle Bernstein, if you look up her bio, is one of the kind of new and current spiritual teachers that is being touted. She focuses most of her material on A Course in Miracles, which was a big, it had a kind of a big following about a decade ago, and it speaks a lot to the kind of the secret, the manifesting your own reality. It talks about the universe or God from this very grand perspective, meaning energy. It speaks a little bit about nanoscience and the idea that quantum physics may be able to explain kind of the God-science connection. So there's again, I'm just giving you the tip of the iceberg, and I encourage you to really investigate what your faith or belief system is, and how do you then practice your belief system. Sometimes people say they do that through gratitude, which is fine. There's absolutely no judgment here. The goal is to help you maybe clarify or deepen a little bit of your spiritual structure and identify how that fits into your idea of the best life. So it looks like I've got a chart here. Now, again, this is a big religion chart. And scrolling all the way down, it gives us, I'm not sure I can expand this anymore, but it gives us the name of the religion, how many people adhere to that religion, what the history is, what kind of quote unquote God do they serve, their the meaning of life, what their kind of philosophy is, their view on the afterlife, how they practice that religion, and then what is the text? Is it the Bible, the Quran, so on and so forth? I really had no idea that there were so many different religions. If we look at Christianity, there are 2.2 billion people around the world that practice Christianity. And of course, the Christian text is the Bible. There's Confucianism, which is 5 to 6 million. There are all of these different, all of them really I haven't heard of. Now there's Gnosticism, and Gnosticism actually existed prior to Jesus Christ. As a matter of fact, there are some Gnostic Gospels, which they believe were written about the same time that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or the New Testament, because it talks about Christ. Most of the Gnostics believe that Christ was not the quote-unquote Son of God, but the son of Mary and Joseph, and they believed that it was not an immaculate conception. I think it's quite interesting, and the Gnostic scriptures are available. Some of them are available online, but it's a very interesting read if you want to move on to something that's was kind of around about the time that Christ also initiated or was here to spur the birth of Christianity. Hinduism, 1 billion people. Islam, 1.6 billion. Jainism, 4 million people, Eastern India. Of course, Jehovah's Witnesses, founded very recently, really, in 1879 in Pittsburgh, which I think is interesting. 14 million people practice Judaism. Almost as big as Mormonism. Also in the 1800s, Islam. New Age, which is kind of interesting, and New Age has an interesting connotation in our culture. Some people believe that astrology and mysticism and yoga is considered a New Age practice. I find that interesting. There's New Thought, which is also from the 1800s. New Thought is interesting. There's a New Thought church not far from where I live, and the emphasis is on spiritual and mental healing, but without rejection of modern medicine. So I went to a service once that I thought was quite interesting. There was a lot of song, and people were very kind and calm. So anyway, this chart is just really quite fascinating, at least to me. And if you have any interest at all in different philosophies or different types of religions, I really recommend that you browse through that and maybe do some Google searches. Now, here's a fair word of warning. You can get lost for days on the internet when you start reading about different religions and understanding or making an effort to understand how other people practice their beliefs. I want to strongly encourage you not to get caught up in a right and wrong perspective, to really understand that there's just all these different views. What's really interesting, I think, and I know there's lots of things that are really interesting about this, but all of the world's major religions tout love and compassion at the core of their faith. And some would tell you that God is love. Actually, the Bible says that point blank. But if that's true, then you kind of have to ask yourself the question, well, when I love, am I an extension of God then? And what does that mean to me? And how does that change or mold or adapt the way that I might experience a sense of spirituality? So they're all really big questions, and I know that you're not going to cover it all necessarily in a week, but I want to encourage you to think about it, challenge your beliefs. Maybe by challenging them, you'll just confirm what you already believe, but keep an open mind. So with that being said, I'm going to let you explore and enjoy, have fun with it, because it really is just a lot of I wonder kind of things. What if? So get to work and enjoy, have a lot of fun, and we'll talk to you again soon.